I'm pausing. There we go. Hi, everybody, and welcome to today's Coaches Kickstart Club. I'm Jen Barley, and I have the fabulous and amazing Karen Sullivan with us.
Hey!
So people are logging on, and I just want to say welcome to the Coaches Kickstart Club call, coming to you live from where, Karen?
We are in, I was trying to think what this place is called, actually, besides Vegas. Like, in New York, I say the city that never sleeps, but what happens here stays here place? I don't know.
Yeah. It could even be, do they call it the City of Lights? Or is that somewhere else?
No, that's somewhere else.
I don't know. But anyway, that's where we are. We're in Las Vegas, and what happens here apparently gets recorded through the Coaches Kickstart Club call.
There you go.
I feel like I have a lamp on my shoulder.
You do.
See that?
Yeah, I do.
Anyway.
I can see it, and I think everybody else can see it too.
I just think I was twisting my back. All right, so here's the skinny and the scoop, you guys. We're excited to be with you. My name's Jen, and this is Karen, and together we have a lot of different fun things that we focus on, but the Coaches Kickstart Club call has been going on for about 5 years now, and maybe slightly longer, and we really do this once a month to be able to help coaches kick up their coaching ability, their skill set, talk about business, and it's something that Karen and I just love to do because we're coaching geeks. And our background is, you know, I've been involved with coaching since 2007. Kara, how long have you been involved with coaching?
2010.
2010. So we have lots of years behind us, and we're continued students on the road to mastery, and we're glad that you guys are alongside with us. So today, well, there's also one other thing. Also, if you like this type of format, we just want to invite you to consider joining the Inner Circle. The Inner Circle is where Karen and I have 2 calls a month that for just $49 a month, and we talk about tools and coaching, and like the next one, we're talking about a non-traditional way to work with your clients around consequences for not, you know, for having too many excuses, so to speak. We have another fun tool coming up in the month of September that's going to be about how to help people understand their part of conflict, and tons of different topics that change every month. We have a great group of coaches. We do it through Zoom. If it's something you're interested in, like I said, it is just very affordable for the value that you get. You can check it out at kickstartyouredge.com/inner circle. There's my dad calling me right now. Hold on one second.
So while you're doing whatever it is that you can do with your dad right there, one of the things, Jen, that I just want to throw out there about the Inner Circle is that so many times people say to us, like, what's next? And like, what else can we learn? What are the things that, you know, they've gone through, whatever training they've gone through, you know, the Facebook group kind of things happen. But I would say that the best way to describe the Inner Circle is it's like for the next step. It's the advancement. It's the what's next after kind of a coaching thing. And the cool thing too with the Inner Circle is that we stretch, we pull in topics and we talk about what people really want to talk about. So for example, one of the people last time on the Inner Circle, a couple weeks back, was talking about how do you coach people with a big ego? You know, how do you coach the ego? So what we actually did was we made that a class. We're like, great, cool, throw us some topics. How do we coach the ego? And the last conversation, the last Inner Circle that we have was all about the ego, and people freaking loved it. So it's a great spot for the what's next. And that's pretty much it. It's a great spot for the what's next. It's advanced coaching skills and tools and tactics. And we give you some really great stuff too. We've probably, Jen, in the past 6 months thrown out like about 3 or 4 different tools for people to work with?
Completely. Yep. Okay, so on that note, let's just jump in. Again, you can find it on our website, kickstartyouredge.com/inner circle. And now let's talk about what we are here to talk about. We're going to have fun today. So Karen and I always talk about coaching the thing behind the thing. Our clients show up, they say, this is what's going on for me, and often it's really something else. It's more, they give the evidence through their story of the experience that they're having. It's our job as coaches to be able to figure out what's really going on? What's really causing the point of tension? What's really creating a place of stuckness for our clients?
So
yeah.
I'm sorry, Jen, I thought I was going to jump in there. I was just gonna say that the big thing, right, to kick off things for you guys is understanding that the thing behind the thing is not about action. That's always gonna take a back seat to the thing behind the thing.
Keep on rolling, Kara. You're on. Just go.
All right. So when we just to piggyback off of what Jen said, we get caught up sometimes in the client's story, right? Which is just a situational kind of thing of the client's energy and their patterns and how they're showing up in their life. And, you know, if you're sitting on the edge of your seat and you're like, and then what happened? And then what happened? And then what happened? You're stuck in the story. But what we want to do is I'm trying to think of the best way to say this. We want to get what the relationship is between what the client is saying and what their story is. So by coaching the thing behind the thing, it's going to allow the work that we do with our clients to actually translate to other different parts of their life, other situations and other things that they're actually bringing up. So identifying the thing behind the thing, it takes practice, guys. And as coaches, without practice and without that due diligence, sometimes we get caught up in the action. And it's funny because I haven't been on this call, Jen, I feel like in a long time. And I see a lot of really cool, familiar names that are on this call. And I know so many of these people are insanely action oriented. And it's like, okay, great. What do we do? What do we do? What do we do? And sometimes it's not really about the what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? It's figuring out what's the thing behind the thing to make the connection, because we don't want to just take things at face value. So anything that anybody wants in life, think about this, guys, right? They'd already have if some BS excuse wasn't in the way. So finding that thing behind the thing, addressing it and facing it and releasing it is known as kind of like the shift, the perspective shift. One of the things here, guys, when we're going to talk about that too, is we don't want to be too quick to do that, you know, because the shift is a process, it's finding out what the block is, addressing it, and then having the client kind of break through it. But it's getting the real message of what it is before we actually get to the, okay, what do I want to actually do with it? So here, the coach is going to really help the client find their real agenda, come to the realization, what is it that they really want? What is the fear that's in the way? What are they avoiding? What are they afraid of losing? And that's finding the thing behind the thing. So it's about breaking through whatever might hold you back. And when we're doing that, it's really, really about paying attention to what are they saying, but also what are they not saying. So I know that I just talked a real lot right there, and I feel like I've had coffee must be strong here in Vegas because I feel like I'm all pumped up.
You are so wound up right now. Let's just all exhale. I love it. It's the passion. It is the coffee. It is the time zone. Probably is also what's going on. So, but it's true what Kara said. So the thing is that the thing behind the thing is all about looking at two components of the thoughts, feelings, action model. It's the thoughts and the feelings, right? So as Karen mentioned, it's not about getting, what's your next step? What are you going to do? How are you going to handle that? You know, what's your plan? All of that stuff is great if it's around the right topic. Coaching the thoughts and the feelings are going to determine what it is that's having our clients move forward or not move forward. The thoughts and the feelings truly are the real agenda for our client. So discovering what that real agenda is can be super tricky as coaches because many times the clients don't even know, right? So they're not going to sit up and say, so I right now have low self-esteem about my ability to do X, Y, and Z, and I'm really concerned that people won't like me. Therefore, I'm not speaking up in meetings, right? Instead, they're just going to say something like, no, I find myself shutting down in meetings. We need to backdoor that to figure out then what's the thing behind the thing that's preventing them from what it is they really want. So in order to be able to take coaching to a new depth, it's about having our clients see what's truly occurring, right? So you're going to tap into the heart of the client, not just the head. So thoughts are going to be the head space, and obviously the emotions are going to be the heart space. So remember that all actions, inactions, procrastinations, half-hearted actions, fully engaged actions are based on some kind of thought or conditioned emotional response. Our clients want to feel better, right? They want to feel good. They want to experience less pain. Getting in tune with what's the real desire is going to be super powerful. So it's about understanding and figuring out what is blocking the client from achieving the goal that they really want. So let's talk a little bit, Kara, about different ways to do that right after we hear from you.
So one of the things too, Jen, that I just want to throw out there, and this actually just popped into my head, is I don't want you guys to think that it's not, that things are not about action. Right? Because our clients want to take action. We don't want them just sitting on the couch and going, okay, great. Now I have these different thoughts or these different feelings, and they're not going to take action. We want them eventually to get to an action. But here's another little spin on this too, is that sometimes it's the action that they're actually afraid of. And sometimes I'll have my clients actually go into what I call the no thinking zone. And I don't want them to think, I just want them to do. And then this is what Jen was talking about, the backdooring it, right? So I want them to do what it is that they're actually afraid of doing without thinking so much about it. And then after the fact, then let's talk about what were the thoughts that were going on that actually allowed you to do what it is that you were afraid of doing. Because that way, then we can figure out what's happening, because sometimes it's the action that they're afraid of because you get too caught in your head. So it's just like, just do it. It's like, let's play the Nike thing, right? Just do it, just do it, just do it. But then we can backdoor, this is when you're afraid. So we want to figure out, what's the thing behind the thing that had you not wanting to do that. So I don't want you to think that this isn't about action.
So let me ask you this, Kara. So when you do that with a client, you see they're totally stuck in their head, and the fear, and you're just like, just do it. How does that sound versus, and I'm going to give an example of how it doesn't sound, right? I'm assuming, right? So if I'm coaching someone and then I say, so what's your next step? And what's one baby step that you can take to be able to get you there? Or, so, what are you willing to commit to when it comes to action? Which is a typical kind of coaching around action. What do you do with the client? Why are you smiling at me like that?
Because it's going to depend on the client. And some of my clients, right, it's going to be just like, hey, freaking suck it up, buttercup. What are you going to do? And other ones, it's just going to be, if you were going to run through walls right now and nothing was going to stop you, what would that be? So I don't think that there's one answer to that, Jen. I think that it really depends on the people, because some people are motivated by that suck it up, buttercup thing. And other people are motivated by all right, listen, if we're going to figure out what's that success look like and what's that step, then I'll ask it that way. But totally depends on the client, and what fires them up. And it's funny because I could see some people that are on the call here, and with some of them, I would be like, all right, let's go. What are you doing? Get at it. How do we get out of your own way? And other people would be more along the lines of, okay, what's going to be that step? Because it's funny, Jen, different times coaching different people, they've actually said to me, I thought you were going to be a little bit harder on me. And that's what people hire me for sometimes, a little bit more of that straightforward, no nonsense thing. And so it's making sure that you meet the client where they're at and what's going to be the most beneficial for that client.
Cool. Let's do this, Kara. Let's stop and see if anybody has any questions or comments about things that we've talked about. And then we're going to look for listening beneath the words of what clients are saying. So a couple different ways for you guys to participate at this stage is you can type something into chat. And it could be to all panelists, just come to Karen and myself. If it or to the whole group. You can also raise your hand, and then we will get you to be able to speak. So what's running through your guys's, anyway, your heads right now? And I do have a hand being raised. So Rena, I'm going to go ahead and put you on. If you don't want your video to come on, there's a button at the bottom that says turn off video. But if not, we'll get to see your beautiful face. So hold on 1/2 second. And she's going to be coming on over. There she is. Oh, there you are. Hi.
Hi.
Oh,
Great to see you both.
Hi. Yes, good to see you. So what's running through your head?
So the first thing that ran through my head, because I have a client right now who is presenting, who I'm doing exactly what you said, because she's very much in her head. And, you know, so I've said, okay, right now I'm going to ask something of you, and that is stop thinking, right? And because I want to tap into the feelings that are behind it, because to me, the thing behind the thing is very well camouflaged, and many times the way to access it is through a feeling.
Yes.
So that's what I'm doing when I'm tapping, but, you know, when I'm tapping into that. But, you know, she's very quick to say, I don't know.
Mm.
I don't know. And then sometimes she's very quick to be very articulate. So I know when I get to the I don't knows, that's the juicy nugget, right? Because that's the one that, you know, we really want to look at and explore and get in there. So I support the I don't know, but I know that she knows, and I know that it's tough, and I support her and validate her through all of that. So I was wondering what you guys, you know, how you approach the I don't know.
So I'm going to just share with you, because I have a whole bunch of different answers to that, but I'm going to share what came up through my head when you said that. I would say, based on the way you just reacted, is to almost say, congratulations for not knowing.
Okay.
Because that's where the juicy stuff is. Because
right.
The way that you just shared that with us, it felt so real and so connected, and I can see there's such a curiosity around that. I would just reflect exactly the way you said it to us, saying, great, let's just, you know, and I know your style a little bit, right? So let's just kind of breathe into that for a moment, and let's just sit with that I don't know, because we're going to together uncover that in a powerful way.
Right.
Tell me what parts of it you do already know, even if it's not the complete answer. And that sort of feels like your style, and it feels like that's what came up to me. There's so many different ways, but the way you said that feels right on the money.
Excellent. Thank you, my dear.
Kara, what would you say?
So I think I'm just going to kind of go back for a second about the I don't know. And I think that a big thing with the I don't know is allowing the client to not know at that point, because sometimes they don't. And then the thing too with this is when they say sometimes I don't know, one of the tactics that I really started doing was I just didn't say anything. And that silence, I think, you know, this is just a side note, guys. I think that silence is one of the best coaching skills that there actually is. And I don't think that we use it enough, because we think that we have to add value, or you think you have to ask questions all the time. And you do. But if you could just be quiet, right, and use my favorite acronym, right at the top of your paper, right, WAIT, wait. And that stands for why am I talking? Right? So shut up. So if you could, when your client says, I don't know, don't say anything.
Okay.
And sometimes that silence will allow them to process something. And I think that's a big thing, because if you talk to Jen, you will hear every thought that she has out loud. Myself, on the other hand, you're not going to hear it, because I'm an internal processor. She's an external processor, but it's not that the processing isn't working, and it's not that the processing isn't happening. So it's just being quiet, asking your client, just saying nothing, and then seeing what they say, and then follow up after that.
Yeah, you've taught me to wait, and I paid attention, and that's probably the 5th time I've written it on the top of one of the papers from a KickStart. So anyhow, but yeah, and it worked really well, because I actually started with my explanation of what this was going to look like.
Mm-hmm.
I made it very clear that there were going to be times where there was going to be silence, and it's purposeful.
Yep.
Yeah. So thank you for teaching me that, my dear.
You're very welcome. That's an old internal affairs trick, guys.
Oh, good. Right.
Sure. Good to know. If we're ever in internal affairs, we'll outweight them.
You'll wait them. Yep.
May not be no offense.
All right, I'm going to move you back to being an attendee, and that was a great question. I love it. I often thought the why am I talking thing was just directed towards me, Care. Why are you talking? Because I talk all the time. Poor Karen. I'm like, blah, 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 all the time. All right, so we got Susie on the line too. Let's get in with her, and she'll be popping over here. All right, hey. Oh, I got to unmute you. Hold on one second. There we go. Okay, can we hear you now?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Hi, guys.
Hey.
I raised my hand right after Raina because I wanted to know the internal external processor was a great connection, but so the internal processor you wait, the external processor, how do you stop the regurgitation of it could be this or it could be that or it could be that, how do you get to what the meat is there rather than having it be continually talking? Because like what Karen said, if we listen to Jen forever, she might talk, on and on and on about what's going on in her head. And how do you know which is the nugget and the thing behind the thing, as opposed to, what's just the fluff of trying to figure it all out?
Cool. Great question. Great question. I was just actually talking about this with somebody yesterday. So the thing with an external processor is they may just process their information and tell you story, example after example. So if they're processing towards insight, I let them do that. If they're processing even towards an action, I'll let them do that. So if they're just processing information, I'm going to bottom line jump in there, intrude, and have them hold up a second. I'm going to give a couple examples of what that sounds like. So information, processing information is just telling you more stories. Oh, I have another example. Let me give you another showcase of what it is that I mean. So I talked to Bob, blah, 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 and they just tell you story. That needs to be cut at some point. But if I sit there and say, that's a really good question. Well, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm a little bit afraid. No, I don't know if that's it. I think I'm really concerned about hurting people's feelings. That is processing towards insight. So are they searching themselves for an answer, or are they just sharing information? And that's how I kind of look at when to cut them off. So if they're searching themselves and talking out loud to find a meaningful answer, let them run with it. A lot of information is what I like to say is, ooh, I'm getting lost in the details. Or hold on one second, you just gave us a great example. Let's run with that. And then ask a coaching question. The other thing to do is if you have a big external processor and they're just telling story, is give a quick reflection, right? A little validation, and don't pause between the validation and the question. So something like, wow, totally sounds like you were frustrated, and I'm curious, What do you think is driving that? If you put a pause in there, they will fill that gap with more
Yes,
stories.
they will.
Right?
Yeah.
They totally
Yeah.
will. So
Okay.
I'm one of them. So, Kara, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that's key, is the, even just saying then too, you just said a lot. So if we're going to focus on one of the things that you just said, or the most important thing, or if you can give me the highlights of what that is, what just jumped out for you? One thing. And,
Okay.
and it's really about that one thing that just came out for them. Like, it's funny because Jen will do this out loud processing thing. I don't have to say anything. And she gets somewhere, and it's just like, great, fabulous. Yeah. So it's almost like there's different people where you could pick up the phone and say, hey, what's going on? And they can talk, and they can keep going and going and going. And then it's just when they stop, where they give you that hesitation or that breath, what's the most important thing I need to know about that? Like, so okay. what's behind all of what you just said, in bullet points or highlights?
Okay. Perfect.
Thank
you.
Does that help?
Absolutely. Yes.
Excellent. Great to
Thanks.
see you too. I
You
love
too.
when people come on video. So I will often share, so a little insight. So most people know, not everybody does, but Karen and I are married. So not only do we own our business together, but we're just 24/7. And thank goodness we really like each other. But the funny thing is, sometimes when I'm processing, I'm like, blah, blah, blah. Karen will just say, am I involved in this? And it's a total fair question, right? And sometimes I'm like, no. And I just keep on going. And other times I'm like, yes. And so I just thought you would like a little insight into our dynamic.
And that's true, right, Jen? Because sometimes it's just like, and I say that, am I involved in this, or do I need to answer, or what am I really paying attention to, or is this just you processing? And it's good, and it's all you. It works.
Oh, it totally does. No, it cracks me up, because the cool thing is I get to stop and I'll say, actually, no, but I'll let you know where I land.
So just one thing, Jen, I just want to backtrack 1 second, then I want to keep going with this.
Right.
Is I just want to go back to the I don't know really quick for a sec, because I think that that's really important. And so many coaches get hung up on their clients saying the I don't know, and silence is one tactic. But also it's, the silence works. Also another tactic that works is, well, okay, cool. Take a moment, and why don't you just think about it? Another great thing to say. Also, I love the thing too, if you're going to guess, what do you think the answer is? So another thing is, another question, what's it going to take to help you figure it out? And then after you ask all these questions, then it's about being quiet. And and also, the other part of this is, of course you don't know. That's why we're on the phone. Or of course you don't know. Now we're going to get it down to the real nitty gritty, and the real work starts here, because, you get to figure this actually out. So those are just some other options for the I don't know.
Good. I gotta tell you, it's so weird to be doing this in a hotel room with it's just, the whole setup is just funky. See, out loud processing right there.
We've done this in a hotel room like 1,000
times. It's weird having a bed there. Oh. We're in a 1-bedroom thing, so Karen's just right next door. But anyway, I'm just sidetracking. A couple things coming in here. Heather says, wait. I love that. Linda says, good insight on the I don't know. Very helpful, from acknowledgement to silence. Thank you. And Linda also says, yes, I can apply this right away. Good. So let's talk a little bit about what you listen for. So when your clients are telling, their insights, what's going on in their head, sometimes in their story, some of the key things that you can pick up on that's going to give you clues about the thing behind the thing. And one of it is when the client feels sort of an all or nothing kind of approach of being at the effect of something. If your client uses words like everyone, never, always, out of control, overwhelm, those kinds of things, usually what's happening is they are lumping everything together and really feeling me against everybody else. So everyone is always talking behind my back. I never get asked my opinion. I always feel left out. Things are out of control. Those kinds of generalizations that lumps everybody sort of against them, right? So this never goes my way. Everyone is always doing this. I'm always 100% sort of said with that kind of 100% confident or percent of the time. Often that's going to show that somebody is feeling powerless and that they are have no choice in something. It often can create overwhelm or opting out of situations. Maybe avoidance is coming in. And so when that happens, the thing behind the thing is, what are they truly trying to avoid, right? So when people say things like, I'm just not going to answer their phone calls, or I'm just going to go to a different meeting, or I'm just going to avoid him, those are kind of symbols of what is it that you're really trying to avoid. It's not the person, but it's the emotion or the situation or the thoughts, maybe the inner critic is coming up. What Karen and I like to call the voice in your head that's an a-hole is coming into the scene. And it's not about coaching them to action. It's about understanding what is it that they're protecting themselves from. Some other things that might come up when people are at the effective things, they're going to say things like, I just feel so bad, or I can't let it go, or that's so not like me to do X, Y, and Z. That's not who I am, or I feel horrible for the way that happened. Usually those types of statements are going to be connected with guilt, right? So, I don't even know who that was. I typically don't show up that way. So then it's about understanding then what's in conflict of why they chose to act that way in that particular moment. Another key thing that's often to coach around is when people say things like, I'm really nervous, or I'm concerned about X, Y, and Z, or I'm worried about the results. Well, that's going to bring in some point of worry and a what-ifer, right? So what if this doesn't work out? A what-ifer. Do you like that, Kara?
I love it. A what-ifer.
What if this doesn't work out? What if it doesn't go right? What if I fail? What if whatever? And that what-ifing is going to keep people stuck from where it is that they want to go. What else is coming up for you, Kara?
So it's funny, Jen, when you just said the what-ifing, and it's that, what if you don't? Like, what if you don't do this? Or what if, it's spinning, actually, the what if. But I think that a big thing around when people are here, it's that internal, it's the voice in their head that's the a-hole that Jen just said, right? But it's replaying those tapes over and over again. I'm afraid of this. What are people going to think of me? I feel like an idiot. So the embarrassment pops up, or the second guessing, playing the VCR tape. I know, right? The VCR tape over and over again in their head. Everybody on this call does know what a VCR tape is, right? But, it's the, why did I do that? Oh man, I wish I did it different. Oh, that was just such a boneheaded move. So that regret pops up. And then, of course, like, you're stuck in your head then at that point, because the internal dialogue just keeps going and going and, excuse me, going.
So also, if somebody is not taking any action, procrastination or perfectionism or half-hearted attempts, or they're good for one day and then all of a sudden they stop doing whatever they committed to, then that is really important about what's really driving that behavior. One of my favorite coaching questions to ask is when someone's all fired up about commitment. Yeah, I'm going to do it, and I'm excited, and I'm going to get going, and then I call them next week, and then they'll say, yeah, I didn't do it. And my thing will be to say, so when did you decide you weren't going to do it? Right? Because maybe they were all fired up until Tuesday, and then on Wednesday, something happened. And then I'll say, what was different about Wednesday? Or what thought ran through your head right before you opted out? Because that's the thing behind the thing, right? So let's say if I'm going to try to lose weight and I'm going to go to the gym and eat well, so then all of a sudden I lose all my motivation on Wednesday. Well, what happened right before that? Well, I ate a donut. What did you tell yourself about the donut? I can never do this. This is too hard. I don't have it within me. You know, all these different things that go on. We want to find out what was the thought that was created right before the action stopped. And we just got this in from Linda. She said, could you reverse it? What if you were successful? What if they responded differently? Yes, you can always do that, right? So part of this is do you coach the stuck part, or do you coach the vision? Is that the right way to say that? You know, what would that look like if you were to be successful? What would be different? All of those things, yes. But I have found that you can coach future, you can coach vision, you can coach pleasure, you can coach desire, but until that thing behind the thing gets removed, sometimes people can't get there. I am not a huge fan of chasing the inner critic for the inner critic's sake, right? So everything doesn't have to go down to what's your biggest fear and all of that. You have to find a balance of what that is. But the key thing is, the thing behind the thing is what you coach to create a new perspective. So it's what perspective has your client stuck? And then how does a new perspective help them move forward? So I think it's a fine balance. Otherwise, we spend way too much into the fear side of things. And it's more about just finding out, you know, I like to say what the gap is, right? So here's where you are, and here's where you want to be, right? So I'm over here, and this is my life, and this is what I'm really coming to coaching from. I say coach the gap. And some of it is people don't have a clear vision of what this is. Sometimes people, this is a should. I should be over here to be a better daughter or whatever, or wife or career person, but I'm not mentally there yet. And sometimes it's bridging between what's important to people. And so you coach the gap whatever way that looks. Anything else to add there, Care?
So a couple things, Jen, that popped up for me when you were talking was being really mindful of the inner critic chasing. And I think that a lot of times what happens is, as coaches, it's like, okay, like you said, you know, it's like, oh my gosh, you have to coach the fear, or you have to coach that inner critic. And sometimes you'll hear a bunch of them, right? So different things will pop up like, oh my gosh, why did I do that? And, you know, your clients will say, why did I do that? So it's like, oh, wait, I gotta coach that regret. And then they're sitting there and saying, oh my gosh, I'm going to look like an idiot. And it's just like, oh, wait a second, I got to coach the embarrassment. And then it's just like, oh my God, there's nothing I can do. And it's like, oh, wait, I got to coach the powerlessness. And you're all over the effing place. And what I like to say, that's about having a rudderless coaching conversation, because you're just chasing the inner critic and you're not figuring out what it is that the client really wants. So this goes way, 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 way back to starting your coaching conversations out with making sure that the agenda is set by the client and what is it that they actually want to get out of the session. Because they can actually just want to get venting out, and that's okay. And it's important that you don't say that, you know, okay, great, I think that they need to get to a certain place, because that's all about you. And that's the real important part of not always going to try to find that shift, because sometimes you got to get the message in the suck. I a lot of times will say, your clients, sometimes they got to embrace the suck. They got to get the message from the suck before they can actually move. Because if you just go into action and you don't get that message of what's really going on, it's going to keep showing up.
Great. Rena typed in here, should is a key word. It usually means there's a value or belief at play that's in question, right? Yes, definitely. It's something that there feels more of an obligation, I guess is a good way to be able to say that. And it's more about what does the client really want and what is it that they actually desire. Okay, so a couple of other things is that often people will come to you focused on other people, right? So they're going to talk about them and they, and he doesn't do that, and my sister-in-law is so annoying, and my boss is driving me nuts, and I can't get this done because of them. It's hard sometimes because what I hear, and Karen and I both hear, a lot of coaches do, is they try to coach the other person who's not there. And that makes it really difficult to do because we don't really know what the other person is. So remember, the thing behind the thing is, what is it that bothers you so much about their behavior? Or is it about expectations? Or is it about judgment? It's basically, who is the client in relationship to the conflict that they're having, regardless with who they're having that conflict with. And so often you're going to hear when people want to go outward, right? They'll say they, he, she, you know, and then give examples of what the other person should or shouldn't be doing. But then it's figuring out, what does the client actually have control over? What's driving their expectation of someone else's behavior? And then how do they want to show up in that particular relationship? So a lot of times that's a control thing, perhaps an entitlement thing. It could be around not trusting other people, right? So there's something off about him, or I don't really believe him, or I'm skeptical about what this is. So what is the driver that's creating the skepticism? And sometimes it could be, you know, not being very trusting. It could be resentment comes in, or frustration. Frustration usually is an unmet expectation. Great way to be able to look at that. And then it's also about sometimes insensitivity towards other people and what it is that they're actually feeling. So a lot of times to realize also is that when people are upset with other people, it's typically a defense mechanism to help the client not feel so bad, right? So if I can get angry at Karen because I feel sad, or never, right, Karen? Never.
Okay. No.
But because I feel disappointed, or I'm hurt, or I feel bad about myself, or something like that, it's sometimes more uncomfortable to sit with that than it is to project my anger towards someone else. So a lot of times anger is covering up some other emotion that people don't necessarily want to experience. So it's really figuring, you know, what's the anger about? What's the key, you know, if you were to really look at this, what is, what's really going on for you? What feels that violated in its own way? By being angry, what are you really protecting? I mean, that's a great question. That's a great thing behind the thing. What are you thinking, Karen?
So one of the things too, it's interesting because I feel like this, like it's funny because you hear all the times there's no emotions in corporate, and Jen and I have been doing boatloads of corporate trainings, and we're doing corporate coaching. And it's interesting because I feel like anger is an accepted emotion in the corporate world because ego is involved with anger a lot of times. And what happens is it's really usually not about the anger. So you want to know, when you can get to the thing behind the thing, what's the anger really, really covering up? Because it's accepted and we get it. But when you can really dig in and find out what's going on, then you can find out what that thing behind the thing really is.
So a great way to look at this is, I always say it's about coaching the emotion. So that doesn't mean this. How does that make you feel? How do you want to feel? What feelings are coming up for you? That to me is not coaching the emotion. Those are generic coaching terms that gives you some information, right? But instead, if somebody says something like, you know, I was so looking forward to this amazing vacation, and I just had it all set up in my mind that it would be this certain way, and I'm just so disappointed in the hotel room. Okay, so let's just say that. It's about coaching the disappointment. That's what we mean by coaching the emotion. Not what feeling did you have when you checked in, or what feelings came up for you when you walked in the room, but talk to me a little bit about that disappointment. You know, because that could be expectations, that could be, there could be something wrong with me because I didn't plan the right vacation, that could be that I wanted it really special for some anticipated event. What's the disappointment all about? So when you are working with our scenarios in our Facebook group, hopefully you guys are all participating, what we want you to do is to figure out what are your questions around the emotion that's going on. So it could be frustration, it could be disappointment, it could be anger, it could be joy, it could be excitement, but that's where the real energy of the entire scenario is. The hotel room and being disappointed in the hotel room, that's just evidence to something that's not working for me. What were you going to say, Kara?
I wasn't. I think, but now that you're saying, I think that the big thing here though too is whatever the emotion is, just expressing it in whatever kind of way. Because if you don't express it and you don't help your clients express it, it's just going to keep coming back again and again and again. And because you got to address it. So it's the disappointment. So then how else in that case does that show up in different places? And being able to really pinpoint on that.
Cool. Let's take because we have just a couple minutes left. We tend to try to go to the 10 of the hour. So what questions, thoughts, comments are coming up for you guys, right? We do have a couple of people saying very good point about anger in the corporate world. Whole cultures are built on anger. Yeah, totally. So what do you guys think? Go ahead and raise your hand if you want to pop on the video with us. So we could hear you, or type in any kinds of comments that you have. And let's just see. So I'm just making sure. Okay, so a couple of things to think about as you're typing things in is that in coaching, Karen and I have a thing called short and broad. Questions should be short and broad. Right? So basically a short and broad question is something that is short and not limited to a set of parameters. Often what coaches may do is they will start to pull in information. So you went to go talk to your manager about the finances, and when you spoke to him about that spreadsheet, you know, what was it that you were really looking for? All of a sudden, that type of question, whoops, puts you in a box, in that moment, around this conversation, what happened for you? As opposed to, well, I forgot my question now because I just made it up. What were you hoping to accomplish? Let's say that was it. What are you hoping to accomplish, right? That there is short and broad. It can be anything, and it can go any way, but it's then finding out what's really coming up for the person. All right, so we're not looking like we have any hands raised. So let's do this in the chat. Why don't you, yes, Kara, why don't you type in, what was your takeaway from today? Let's hear from a few people through the chat. What was one nugget that you felt was super helpful in today? And while they're doing that, Kara, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take a sneak peek on when our next Coaches Kickstart Club call is.
Great.
So, no. And see, you can see what's coming in.
Like the weight, very valuable. Come on, guys, your biggest takeaway. Pearls of wisdom here. I like the backdoor approach. Cool.
All right. Well, good. We're hoping. So here's what we do. We can continue that discussion on the Facebook group, right? So just where I posted about this, we're actually going to post the video of this on the Facebook group. So then you guys could even add some comments there. Great. Melanie typed in, I wrote down the question, how do you want to show up in this relationship? Because it relates to the coaching session I had right before the call. I'm going to use it in my follow-up. Thank you. Stacy loved the tips for coaching the I don't know. Dawn is a fan of the wait. Susie says, biggest nuggets, internal, external thinkers, and coaching them as such, just a great reminder. Our next call is going to be September 20th, which is our typical day on a Wednesday at noon Eastern time. So Karen and I will be, oh good, Margaret said frustrations equal unmet expectations. Totally, right? Think about when you get frustrated, ask yourself what expectation isn't being met. I expected people to be nicer. I expected it to be faster. I expected this to be easy. I expect good customer service, right? So you can fill in the blank with anything. But that's really where that comes in. And so a great coaching question is, so what expectation wasn't met that has you so frustrated? Getting people to see that. Okay, so on that note, Karen, let's go do Vegas. You want to go do Vegas?
Let's go do Vegas, Barley.
All right, so what happens in Vegas will totally, almost all of it, a little bit, will be on our Facebook group. We're going to share our insights. We're here for Business Mastery. It's a whole big business week that's going to be happening. And on that note, Karen, let's go.
We're wrapping this puppy up, Barley. And yes, this is the Business Mastery Week. So we're going to 5 days. We are being immersed in our business and we'll share it.
Cool. All right. Thanks you all. Bye.
Bye.